So today, we're going to dive into something pretty revolutionary, Pharma 4.0. You've probably heard of the fourth industrial revolution, right? Well, this is how it's being tailored for the super high-stakes world of pharmaceuticals. We're going to see how data, automation, and connectivity are all converging to create the predictive, intelligent factory of the future. Let's get right into it. All right, here's a quick look at where we're headed. We're going to kick things off with the big picture, the Industry 4.0 framework. Then we'll narrow our focus to see how that gets adapted into Pharma 4.0. After that, we'll tackle how this whole thing helps break down those frustrating organizational barriers, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, the core check driving it all. We'll also face the music and talk about the challenges, and then wrap up by looking ahead to what's next, a more human-centric future. Okay, first things first. Before we can really get our heads around Pharma 4.0, we have to understand where it comes from. And its parent concept, its foundation, is something called Industry 4.0. This is the blueprint for the total digital transformation of all manufacturing.
Now, this slide is fantastic because it lays out the entire evolutionary path. It's a six-stage journey. It all starts with stage one, computerization, just getting computers and digital systems onto the factory floor. Then comes stage two, connectivity, which is all about getting those systems to talk to each other. That leads us to stage three, visibility, and this is where you can finally start to see in real time what is happening. From there, we climb to stage four, transparency. This is where you use data analytics to understand why it's happening. But the really huge leap happens next, in stage five, predictive capacity. This is the game changer, where you can ask what will happen. And the final goal, the holy grail, is stage six, adaptability, where the system can achieve an autonomous, self-optimizing response to whatever comes its way.
Okay, so we have this powerful general framework. But what happens when you try to apply it to a field as heavily regulated and complex as pharmaceuticals? Well, that's where Pharma 4.0 comes in. It's the specific tailored model designed just for this industry. So, the Pharma 4.0 model rests on two critical enablers. Think of them as the foundation. At the top, you have digital maturity, and at the bottom, data integrity by design. That second one is huge. It just means making sure your data is accurate and trustworthy from the very second it's created. Sitting on that foundation are four main pillars. First up is resources, which is about digitizing your equipment and, crucially, building a qualified workforce of the future. Pillar number two is information systems, which focuses on creating a holistic value network where everything is integrated. The third pillar is organization and processes, which revolves around frameworks like the ICH, that's the International Council for Harmonization, Holistic Control Strategy. And finally, the fourth pillar is culture. This one's all about fostering great communication and making sure decisions are driven by data, not just gut feeling.
And this diagram gives you the whole shebang. You can see those four core pillars we just talked about, but they're not acting alone. They're driven by 8 special interest groups, or SIGs, and these SIGs cover everything. You've got high-level strategy, like the impact and maturity model. You've got flexible manufacturing with plug and produce. They're pushing for process excellence with things like process maps, the holistic control strategy, and CPV, that's continued process verification, and process automation. And they're also looking outward with connected health, all while making sure everything stays compliant with Validation 4.0. It's a truly comprehensive model.
One of the biggest roadblocks to any major transformation isn't the technology, it's the people and the organizational structure. Pharma 4.0 takes aim at one of the oldest problems in business, the dreaded organizational silo. I mean, just look at this cartoon. It's kind of funny, but it's also painfully true, right? You've got this manager trying to get a project done, but everyone is trapped in their own little bubble. The person in the function silo says, "It's not in my P&L," meaning it doesn't help their department's bottom line. The one in the country silo says, "It's not in my objectives." And my favorite, the product group person who says, "I'd like to help, but." It's the classic story of disconnected teams who just can't work together, even when they want to. So how does Pharma 4.0 actually fix this? Well, it's designed from the ground up to build bridges. Internally, it creates connections between departments that were often worlds apart, like product development, commercial manufacturing, and engineering. And you can see that those intersections are where crucial activities like tech transfer and maintenance actually happen. But it goes beyond that. Externally, it connects the entire ecosystem. Regulators like the FDA and EMA, the rest of the industry, and even healthcare providers and patients. The goal is to create this seamless flow of information to innovate faster, protect patients better, and deliver more effectively.
Okay, now for the really cool stuff. Let's get under the hood and look at the engine that actually powers this whole transformation. We're talking about the powerful combination of data, deep analytics, and advanced robotics. It all boils down to this one super simple but incredibly powerful idea. You've probably heard some version of it, but it is the absolute bedrock of all of this. If you can't measure it, you can't control it. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And if you can't measure it, you sure can't improve it. So the bottom line is, if you can't measure it, for all practical purposes, it doesn't even exist. And this is how we start measuring everything. It's all about the Internet of Things, or IoT. These devices bring the physical world into the digital one. I mean, look at this incredible array of sensors and actuators. They can capture literally any variable you can imagine. Temperature, humidity, motion, velocity, acoustic vibration, flow, pressure, chemical composition, you name it. These little devices are the eyes and ears of the smart factory. They're like the nervous system, making every single step of a process visible, measurable, and ultimately controllable. Okay, so follow the data with me here. It all starts with those IoT devices right on the plant floor, at the machine level. That data then gets collected by what are called edge servers, which are located right there in the plant. From there, all that high-velocity data gets streamed up to the cloud. That's where the heavy lifting happens: storage and massive data lakes, cognitive computing, and all sorts of advanced analytics. Then the insights from that analysis get pushed right back down into the factory, enabling things like predictive maintenance, real-time alerts, and live dashboards. It creates this complete end-to-end cloud-enabled ecosystem.
So you've got all this data in the cloud. Now what? Well, this Gartner model does a great job of showing the evolution of what you can do with it. It starts with descriptive analytics, which just answers the question, what happened? Pretty basic. Next, you move up to diagnostic analytics, which digs a little deeper to ask, why did it happen? Now, both of those are about hindsight, looking in the rearview mirror. The real magic begins when you move to predictive analytics, which forecasts what will happen. And the highest level, the pinnacle of maturity, is prescriptive analytics. This doesn't just predict the future, it recommends what should I do, and can even automate that decision.
All right, theory is great, but let's look at a concrete, real-world example. This diagram shows a parenteral filling line. Now, there's a critical decontamination process here that takes a really long time. We're talking 4 to 6 hours. What they did was feed all the sensor data from that process into a real-time predictive model. This allows the team to forecast the final outcome of the batch long before the cycle is even finished. It's a huge shift from just reacting to a finished batch to actually controlling the process while it's still happening. And get this, the results were just incredible. The predictive model was able to tell them the final outcome of that 6-hour process within the first 4 minutes. And it did it with 87% accuracy. Just think about the business impact of that for a second. That leads directly to more line availability, a massive boost in productivity, and a much, much deeper understanding of the process itself. That's the power of predictive analytics in action. And then there's the other big player here, robotics. This chart makes the economic argument crystal clear. Since 1990, you can see labor costs have been steadily climbing, while at the same time, the price of industrial robots has absolutely plummeted. It just makes automation an increasingly smart, almost obvious investment. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, these robots are being deployed everywhere across the value chain, from moving goods around the warehouse to staging materials, loading and unloading the production line, and taking the finished products right back to the warehouse. All right, so this all sounds amazing, right? But let's be real, a journey like this is never easy. Implementing Pharma 4.0 comes with some very significant challenges, particularly for the super important quality unit. Let's break down what those hurdles actually are. You're really looking at 4 major hurdles to clear. First up is change management. This isn't just about rolling out new software, it's about fundamentally changing how quality professionals think and work every single day. Second is talent development. The people you already have need new skills in things like data science and digital systems to really make this work. Third is a huge practical headache, legacy system integration. A lot of plants are running on older systems that were never designed to talk to each other, and connecting them to new digital solutions is a massive technical challenge. And finally, there's regulatory uncertainty. Technology is just moving so fast, it often outpaces the regulations, which creates this kind of gray area where companies have to innovate while also staying compliant. And you know, all this talk about data, robots, and systems, it brings us to our final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle, the people. With all this new technology swirling around, what does it mean for the human worker at the heart of it all?
In a regulated world like pharma, training is absolutely non-negotiable. The regulatory bodies are incredibly specific about this. So, who has to be trained? Basically, anyone whose job could possibly affect product quality. That means production, storage, labs, maintenance, even the cleaning staff. And what kind of training? It has to be appropriate for their specific job. And it can't be a one-and-done thing. It has to be ongoing, with regular checks to see if it's actually effective. And the paperwork? Well, it has to be perfect. Records need to include who attended, what the training covered, proof that people are competent, evaluations of effectiveness, and all the necessary authorization.
And this intense focus on the human element is actually the seed for the next big evolution, Industry 5.0. Now, it doesn't replace Industry 4.0. It builds on it. It complements it. The key difference, the big shift, is that it explicitly puts the well-being of the worker right at the center of the entire production process. It completely reframes the goal of technology. The new aim is to use it to provide prosperity that goes way beyond just jobs and economic growth, while also being sustainable and respecting our planet's limits.
This quote just nails the whole philosophy perfectly. Industry 5.0 is aimed at supporting, and this is the key word, not superseding humans. It's all about finding that sweet spot, that optimal balance, where we can use all this amazing technology for efficiency and productivity, but do it in a way that helps, augments, and empowers the human worker, not replaces them.
And that really leaves us with a critical question for this new era we're entering. We've seen the unbelievable power of this technology, but as we race to build the automated, predictive factory of the future, how do we make sure we design it not just for efficiency, but for humanity? How do we ensure that our goal isn't just a smarter factory, but a better, safer, and more fulfilling workplace? That is the challenge that will truly define the success of this entire revolution. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.